Welcome back, guys. This is my top 30 films of 2011. I'm getting into the top 10 now. Let's kick it off with number 10, The King's Speech. Even though I don't think it should have been the best picture last year, which it won at the Oscars, I personally would have gone for Social Network. It was still a really, well-made film with some excellent actors. Colin Firth in the lead role, he was really good. Helena Bonham Carter was also excellent, and Jeffrey Rush, I think he won the Oscar too, right? Yeah, he was good. Pretty interesting story, really well made. Solid film. I think it's a bit talked up by some people. I think there are better films out there, but yeah, it's good. Number 9 is The Guard. This is definitely one of the funniest movies of the year. It features Don Cheadle playing an American FBI agent who comes to Ireland to help solve a case. I'd say it's probably the best out-and-out comedy of the year. It's got some very dark humour that could offend, but that's why I love it, to be honest. I love that sort of humour. I think it kind of flew under the radar, which is unfortunate, but if you guys give it a shot, I think you'll definitely like it. Everyone who I've talked to has loved it, so go for it. Number 8 is Win-Win. This was a big surprise for me, and it really came out of left field. I expected it to be kind of cheesy and typical and just boring, but thankfully it surprised me. It features a troubled kid with a wrestling background who gets back on his feet with a new family who takes him in. It's got some great acting and a really cool story with a very satisfying ending, I would say. Once again, even if you don't like this amateur wrestling deal, it's a really good movie on so many different levels, so I would definitely say give it a shot. In at number 7 is Drive. Given the name, I was expecting more driving, but surprisingly, it gave me very strong vibes of one of my favourite films, No Country for Old Men. It's got some brutal kills and some great action, alongside a gripping story. I think it's probably a safe bet to win quite a few awards, and I'd say certainly for this year it is essential watching, so check it out. It's the sort of film that I think is going to get a lot of buzz over the next few years, and it's going to go down quite well in terms of how it holds up over the next few years. Number 6 is 50-50. So I'm a huge Joseph Gordon-Levitt fan, and he's one of my favourite actors out there right now. This film features him battling cancer, with Seth Rogen as his best friend. Seth Rogen is another guy who I'm kind of mixed on. I don't like all of his films, but in this, he's really good once again. The film has plenty of laughs, but also gets pretty emotional at times. I really like this film, and I think it's one that sticks with you for a long time. I also think Joseph Gordon-Levitt deserves some particular attention and praise for his acting in this film. Hopefully he gets an Oscar nomination. I think he deserves it. Number 5 is Submarine. Now, I think this is one that definitely flew under the radar, certainly for American viewers, just because I don't know that it got much of a release over there. It's a comedy/drama about an oddball kid growing up in a pretty bleak town in Wales with the intention of getting laid. The humour is very dark and dry, and it was right up my street. On the surface, there doesn't appear to be much to this film, but I think in certain ways it's actually pretty profound, and, it's really good. Number 4 is 127 Hours. Now, this is another film I think was definitely worthy of all the Oscar nominations it got last year. As you probably know by now, the story is James Franco's character, who's a bit of a thrill seeker, goes out biking in a big ravine, and he gets trapped by a rock, and he has to get out. One of my favourite films of last year was Buried, so I guess I kind of have a running thing of enjoying seeing people being stuck. Yeah, that's not weird. The film has a great soundtrack, awesome cinematography, and lots of suspense. Once again, James Franco is very, very good in this film, and it's really well directed. Number 3 is Super 8. Now, I'll admit, I'm a bit of a J.J. Abrams fanboy after his work on Lost and also as producer on Cloverfield. And to be honest, this sci-fi had me sucked in from the moment I saw the teaser trailers online. I was super, super hyped going into this film, and thankfully I think it lived up to my expectations certainly, even though it didn't live up to other people's, I think. In many ways, this is kind of a spiritual successor to No, it's not really though, is it? I also really like the climax of this film. I think if you're a sci-fi fan, this one is a must-watch. And we are down to the final two. My number 2 favourite film of 2011 was Black Swan. I think the trailers for this film put a lot of people off just because it's kind of heavy on the dancing. But if you're not an idiot, you will have gotten over that and realised that it's really a stunning psychological thriller with terrific acting. And I think it's a ride you're not going to forget anytime soon. Natalie Portman is awesome in this, and Mila Kunis is hot. Now, this is my number 1 film. I switched around quite a few times just because I loved both of them for very different reasons, but in the end, my number 1, I went for... Senna. So I'm somewhat of an F1 fan to begin with, but I wasn't properly aware of this guy's legacy. The trailer totally sucked me in with its terrific editing, but too many times have I seen a cool trailer and then been disappointed with the resulting film. But this film was the complete polar opposite. I thought it was completely stunning, and it really has the ability to get your heart racing regardless of whether you like the sport or not. To be honest, I'm not even that big on documentaries as a whole, so the fact that this one is my number 1 film of the year shows just how good it is. It's some of the best editing I've ever seen in a documentary or film, and it has an incredible soundtrack. His story is incredible, and I could see when I was in the cinema watching this that everybody was just as immersed in the story as I was. Now, this film is getting quite a lot of recognition, but I think unfortunately it might be overlooked at the Oscars and other higher levels of awards like that, which is a shame because I really think it deserves it. I think this is the ultimate case of a film that you should see, regardless of whether you like the sport or not. And that caps off a pretty cool year of films. I think we saw a lot of good stuff this year. As I said, if you guys disagree with me, feel free to comment or post your own lists. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you can check out a few of the films I noted because, as I said, some of them I think flew under the radar and I think they could definitely do with a watch. Thank you, guys. Goodbye.